So hello everyone and welcome to Diffusion. So I am Raghav here to make your concepts easy. So now let's start today's topic, which is ascending tracts. And this will include dorsal column pathway, and spinothalamic tract, which further is of two types, which we will see again later, anterior and lateral. So it's also called anterolateral spinothalamic tract, and dorsal column pathway is also known as posterior column pathway. So now let's decode it and understand everything about it. Now the lesions I will be covering separately in another video after explaining you what are descending tracts. Now first learn the anatomy and physiology of this basics. So yes, we have dorsal column pathway and spinothalamic tract. So let's first decode dorsal column pathway. So now as you understand, these are ascending tracts. So ascending tracts are those which carry the sensory sensations from your peripheral body parts to the central parts. Okay. Now same way descending tracts would come from the brain to your peripheral parts and they will carry the motor impulses. So now these are the sensory tracts which will be carrying the sensory impulses. So what is the basic anatomy for this dorsal column pathway? So what you need to understand is what bullet points we will make at this end of this session is that you will understand is what its function. Okay, then what are the receptors involved? Then what are the first order neurons? Then what are the second order neurons? And then what are the third order neurons? Okay, transactions we will deal in separate video. So the bullet points we will cover here. Okay, and yeah, basic anatomy, that from where it goes and how, what is the decussation level and everything. So now let us start with the basic anatomy. Okay, so as you see, this tract starts from the spinal cord. So let us draw that. So let us suppose this is your spinal cord. Now this is your DRG. Okay. Now spinal cord. Then above, let us make medulla. Okay. Then let's skip pons for a while and then straight away let us show cortex. Okay. So now let's first label it so that it becomes easy for us. So this is your DRG, that is dorsal root ganglia. Okay, and here let us divide let us cover it with blue, then it with red. Yeah, there's a logic behind that. Let me tell you. This blue one is fasciculus cuneatus. Okay, and this red one is what is called as fasciculus gracilis. Okay. Now, why are they separate? So let me tell you that cuneatus is for upper limb and gracilis is for lower limb. That is sensations from upper limb by cuneatus and sensations from lower limb by fasciculus gracilis. So this would involve cervical and thoracic spinal cord, while this would involve sacral and lumbar spinal cord. Now in the diagram I've showed only one, but now you must understand when it will come from the upper limb, it will involve cervical and thoracic. When it will come from lower limb, it will come from sacral and lumbar. Okay, let's clarify. Let's make two spinal cords, no problem. Now this fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus have their counterparts as nucleus in the medulla. So these are nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. Okay, we will understand what that means. So this is medulla, and let us suppose this is a cervical spinal cord and this is sacral spinal cord. So, and this we have made is cortex with thalamus. Okay, now let us start the tract. So yeah, from the upper limb the sensations would go and they will go through which fasciculus, because it's upper limb, so it will go through cuneatus. And if we talk about lower limb, there is sacral spinal cord, the tract will go through fasciculus gracilis. Okay, let me make it. Yeah. This is gracilis and this was cuneatus. Okay, so now they will ascend because these are what? Ascending tracts. Let me make spinal ganglion cells also into DRG. Yeah. So now they will ascend. It will ascend to nucleus cuneatus and this will ascend to nucleus gracilis. So this from the periphery, after taking the sensation from the receptor, these are the receptors. I will tell you then what are the receptors are. So these receptors till nucleus, fasciculus and gracilis. This is your first order neuron. Yes, you got that right. That is your first order neuron. Now here it will come down and decussate. What is decussation? Is crossing to the opposite side. So it will decussate and move up again because it's ascending tracts. So now this, starting from the nucleus, cuneatus and gracilis till thalamus. Yeah, obviously pons would be in between. And so this would be what? This would be your second order. Now from thalamus to cortex. Yes, which part of cortex? Somatosensory area, which is area 312. Okay, and in thalamus, which nucleus? Yes, that's VPL, ventro-posterolateral nucleus. And what are the third order neurons? As you have guessed right, these are from thalamus to the brain. So these are third order neuron. So till now, what have we answered from our bullet points? Let's see that. So we have very well answered what are first order neurons, what are second order neurons, what are third. First were from the receptors till the nucleus, gracilis and fasciculus in the medulla. Then from there, second order neurons start and terminate in thalamus. Then from there, third order neurons start and terminate in somatosensory area in the cortex. So these are your first and second and third order neurons. Now, what are the function? What are the receptors? Now question comes. What these carry actually? Now let me tell you. They actually carry fine touch, conscious proprioception. Yes, conscious proprioception. Why it's conscious? Because unconscious is carried by spinocerebellar tract. That's why I mentioned conscious proprioception. Then vibratory sense. So these are the functions that are carried by dorsal column. Now what are the receptors that are carrying this? So there are many. Let's count down. These includes Pacinian corpuscles. These include Meissner corpuscles. Then joint receptors. Then muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs. Now these are various receptors which I will make a separate video explaining what function they follow, but you need a gross idea, not much hard and fast of the rule. So these are basically involved in fine touch, proprioception and vibratory sense. These are the receptors which carry the sensation, and now you have known the tract, from where it goes, how it goes. Okay. Now let me make you a mnemonic for you, like how I remember. So like this gracilis and cuneatus. First remember CG. In ABCD alphabet, C comes first and G comes after, so CG. Okay. Now imagine if you are a person. Okay. Where will your upper limbs be? There. Where will the lower limbs be? So which is in between? That is, which is more medial? Your lower limbs. Which is more lateral? Your upper limbs. So if this is the pattern, which is more lateral, that is cuneatus. Which is more medial, that is gracilis. So remember like that, gracilis for lower limb, which is more medial, and for upper limb we have cuneatus, that is lateral. Okay. So this was our first tract, that is dorsal column pathway. Now what in posterior column, this thing, that is second order neurons, fibers, this is called as medial lemniscus. Hence it is called as medial lemniscus pathway also. So now let's decode our second tract, that is spinothalamic tract. So yes, spinal thalamic tract is of two types, anterior and lateral. Okay, so what are the bullet points that we need to answer are what are their functions, what are the receptors involved, what are first order neurons, what are second order neurons, and what are third order neurons. Okay, let's start from the basic. Very basic. So this is your spinal cord. Yeah, I know it's not that beautiful, but please bear with me. The spinal cord, this is DRG. Again, a beautiful medulla. Then skipping pons and cortex. Okay. So again, marking them. This is your spinal cord. This is a medulla. This is cortex, our beloved cortex. So now the tract, as you say, again starts with the receptors, which we'll know again what are these. Then it goes to the DRG, again spinal ganglion. Then it goes and goes and goes. Now this, here would it terminate. What is this? They terminate in dorsal horn neurons, which are here known as substantia gelatinosa. Yes, these are substantia gelatinosa or nucleus proprius. Nucleus proprius. So yes, we have answered one question. What are first order neurons? From the receptor to this dorsal horn neurons, this is first order. Now let's go further. From here it will decussate any cross to the another side, and from its area in the spinal cord move above in the medulla and again thalamus. Now which nucleus? VPL of thalamus. And then again decoded second order neurons. What are these? From the substantia gelatinosa to the thalamus, this is second order neurons. Now third order would start from the thalamus to the cortex till somatosensory cortex, that is area 3, 1, 2 of Brodmann. Okay, now what is different in this? So now decussation already happened at the level of spinal cord. There the decussation would happen at the level of medulla. Now what is another difference? Before the VPL, the collaterals would also go to, yes, the collaterals would also go to where? They would go to reticular formation. Now why? The reason is that within the answer to function. Yes, I will tell you why. So collaterals are sent to reticular formation. So now what are the third order neurons? Yes, from the thalamus to cortex. These are your third order neurons. Now one more extra point I would like to tell you, that this from the receptor to dorsal horn neurons, this whole tract, yes, this is called as tract of Lissor. Yes, I will write it again. Lissor. Lissauer. Tract of Lissor. Okay. So now, what we have answered so far, let's give appreciation to ourselves, which is very important. That is, what are first order neurons, what are second order neurons, what are third order neurons? Answered very easily. So now what are the functions? The functions would be, depending on what, is it anterior or is it lateral? So lateral would carry pain and temperature, while anterior would carry crude touch. Now fine touch was carried by posterior column, but crude touch is carried by what? Anterior spinothalamic tract. Okay, so these are the functions which we have decoded. Now what are the receptors? The receptors would be free nerve endings. Yes, and for pain, I would like to tell you that is carried by lateral. It is of two types: slow pain and fast pain. Yes, and the fibers are different for both. So if it is slow, if it's fast, for slow it will be carried by C fibers, and for fast it will be carried by A delta fibers. This is one difference which I would like to tell you. So pain, and yeah, the collaterals to reticular formation is because of pain. That is, when something happens, bad happens, pathology happens, it constantly reminds you, the reticular formation constantly awakens you, makes you conscious that there is something happening. So the pain is happening, and so you should visit to the physician at the right time. So it makes you conscious again and again. Okay, so this was about spinal thalamic tract, which we have decoded functions, receptors, and all the neurons. So now we will be covering lesions in another video when we understand another separate video what are the descending tracts. So till then, let's end the video and bye bye. So if you like the video, if you understand the concepts, please like and subscribe the channel, that is the diffusion. And yeah, diffusion is because, yeah, that's literal, when knowledge and learning moves from high concentration to low concentration. Yeah, please don't laugh at that. So okay, signing off.